According to Daenerys Targaryen, the army of the dead is nearly 100,000 strong. So one of our biggest obstacles that are going to be faced by our heroes going into the final season of Game of Thrones is how in the heck will they defeat the army of the dead. In this video, let's discuss several weapons our heroes will use in defeating the Long Night. I am having a major holiday giveaway here on this channel. If you want to win, make sure you check out the gleam.io link down below, slap a like on this video, leave a comment, and then make sure you subscribe. Then go ahead and turn your notifications on so that way you get alerted every time I drop Game of Thrones content. Some of the top prizes are a Game of Thrones Monopoly set, a Game of Thrones shot glass set with all of the house sigils on it, and a Ghost Funko Pop figure. There are many other prizes, and your chances to win are becoming slim and none. The last day of the competition is going to be December 26th, so make sure you enter the contest by then. Okay, so this first weapon that our heroes could potentially use against the Night King and his army of the dead are Valyrian Steel and Dragon Glass. Like, I actually did a video last week where you can actually click the link right up here and that'll take you to that video, where I mentioned that in one of Jon Snow's prophecies slash dreams that he has in A Dance with Dragons, is actually his last dream before he's stabbed and then, you know, ghost. In that dream, he imagines himself wearing a black suit. I put two and two together and thought that would be dragon glass. Well, a lot of people in the comments were saying that it's impossible to make dragon glass into an armor because it's so brittle and it will break. Now, I agree with that, but Valyrian Steel. The process of making Valyrian Steel is still somewhat a mystery. Here's the exact definition that we're given in the novels. Valyrian Steel is a form of metal that was forged in the days of the mighty Valyrian freehold. When fashioned into bladed weapons, the steel can hold an especially keen edge, remaining sharp forever without the need for honing. Aside from its sharpness, Valyrian Steel is recognizable by its strength and light weight in comparison to ordinary steel. Okay, so basically Valyrian Steel, the real world equivalent would be Damascus Steel. That recipe was lost, you know, thousands of years ago, and it is still some of the strongest steel on Earth. A lot of people will come up with their process of forming Damascus Steel, but it's still not as strong as the original. So when I hear the description of how Valyrian Steel is made and how it was made in the Valyrian freehold, well, the one thing Valyrians are known for is that they were dragon lords. So if you have dragons at your disposal, you can almost kind of, you know, do anything. It's almost like being a nuclear power in Westeros. So with that being said, the process of Valyrian Steel has long been suggested that dragon glass is used in making that. Now, the actual process of forging steel reads as follows. To make steel, iron ore is first mined from the ground and then is then smelted in blast furnaces where the impurities are removed and carbon is added. In fact, a very simple definition of steel is iron alloyed with carbon, usually less than 1%. So most of the time when they're making steel in the real world, they use coal, and coal is cleaned of its impurities in a coke furnace, yielding an almost pure form of carbon. A mixture of iron ore and coal is then heated in a blast furnace to produce molten iron, or pig iron, from which steel is made. So if you need a carbon combined with iron to make steel, that's exactly what dragon glass is. Dragon glass does contain carbon, and you could argue that, you know, no one in Westeros has a furnace that's hot enough to extract the carbon from the obsidian. Well, that's where the dragons come in. Dragon flame is known to be hot. I potentially see something going down like this, like Gendry mentions that, you know, Valyrian Steel is potentially the greatest weapon that we have against the Long Night. We need to come up with a way to fashion it. Daenerys has 2 dragons on key. Westeros is in need of Valyrian Steel, and Winterfell, where all of our heroes are going to be at, does have a forgery. So I predict Gendry, Tyrion, Bran, maybe Daenerys, and a few other wise minds inside of our heroes team at Winterfell. They will all get together, especially Sam. You know, he's got those books and those texts. I guarantee you one of them has the actual recipe for Valyrian Steel written on it. That was a prediction that I made back in Season 7. But anyway, they're all going to get together and they're going to be like, okay, so this is what we need to do. We have all this dragon glass from Dragonstone. We have plenty of iron laying around Winterfell. Let's see what happens. Now, I'm not exactly sure if they'll be able to produce enough Valyrian Steel to make an entire suit of armor, but key locations on the armor could be, you know, where we get in the Valyrian Steel. Like, so let's say it's a pretty much regular suit of armor, and then certain key locations contain the Valyrian Steel, i.e. like the greaves. You know, if you have like sort of like what Batman has, the spikes on the side. Okay, I'm getting far ahead. I definitely think the Valyrian Steel will be a very valuable weapon in the fight for the Long Night. Another weapon that could be extremely valuable in the fight for the Long Night is, if you remember in episode 6, we saw how much havoc Daenerys' dragons wreaked on the army of the dead. Like, honestly, if you had most of those dudes in a field and the Night King was far enough back and maybe, I don't know, someone comes up with the genius idea to armor the dragons to, like, cover their underbelly. Like, we know Drogon has a thick hide, but come on, someone put armor on these dragons. Either way, if they were in a giant, massive open field, Daenerys has the upper hand. She honestly doesn't even need a massive army. She just needs her 2 dragons, maybe Jon Snow riding on Rhaegal, and then they basically just, you know, fly in circles around the army of the dead, roasting them. But if that doesn't happen, which it likely will happen, just not in the way I described it, wildfire is also a very valuable asset. We saw that wildfire is almost as equivalent as dragonfire. It's basically a giant nuke. So Cersei is known to use it. That's her weapon of choice, and I don't think that Cersei Lannister is going to play any sort of pivotal role in fighting the dead. Maybe she will do so unwillingly, like maybe she's trying to screw over Jon Snow and Daenerys, but her plans are ultimately foiled, and then she ends up helping Daenerys and Jon. I would love to see something like that play out on screen. But as far as who knows how to make the wildfire, well, we do have the pyromancers in King's Landing. So if somehow maybe, you know, Davos can pull another smuggling mission where he goes there and smuggles out one of the pyromancers, or Bran can look into the past and come up with a recipe for it. I would not be surprised if almost every like awesome weapon is in the plans or those papers that Sam stole from the Citadel. Let's not forget, it is said that in the time of Aerys Targaryen, aka the Mad King, he had caches of wildfire stashed beneath King's Landing. Now, we saw Cersei use those to blow up the Sept of Baelor, but who's to say there's not more caches of wildfire underneath King's Landing, and Davos' expertise of smuggling comes in handy once again. He sneaks into King's Landing, knows the best way around it because he's actually from King's Landing, and smuggles out some of that wildfire instead of fermented crab. If our heroes are in fact able to harness the power of wildfire, I could see them using it in weapons. Like, can you just imagine a giant wildfire ballista used to fight the army of the dead, or maybe even a wildfire catapult? Now, we do know that wildfire is very volatile and not easy to work with, but desperate times call for desperate measures. You guys let me know what you think down below if you think they'll be using wildfire to fight the Long Night. Another weapons our heroes are currently using or have currently used are dragons. We all know that dragons can wreak havoc on the undead, so if they're used wisely and armored up, they will be one of the greatest weapons our hero has. The final 2 things our heroes have the options of, you know, using in this fight would be a massive army and a strong attack plan, aka no Tyrion. Like, I know Tyrion was doing his best last season. There are actually some crazy theories out there that a lot of people think that Tyrion was basically trying to, you know, shuffle Daenerys' plans the entire season because he wanted his family to live. Now, I definitely don't agree with that theory, but I do think that Tyrion's love for Jaime and Cersei, albeit Cersei might be slim to none, that's still a sister. You can't choose who your siblings are, so you're forced to love them no matter how screwy they are in the head. So with that being said, I do think that, yeah, that was kind of making Tyrion not the great, you know, strategist, because we do know that Tyrion is a very smart and a very wise guy. But last season, you know, his plans, almost every single thing that he suggested was a terrible idea, and Daenerys would have been better off for not listening to him. So as long as he takes a back seat in, you know, any sort of strategies that are being made, not necessarily for fighting the Night King, but just strategies in general, like, you know, we're definitely going to find out that Cersei's got the Golden Company and they're marching to go and take on Jon and Daenerys. So as long as Tyrion stays away from those plans, you know, I think that would be the best. As far as the massive army, Daenerys already has one of those. A lot of Jon Snow's company that went beyond the wall were wiped out, and he returned with very few, but he also left with very few. So you almost have all of the wildlings that survived the Battle of the Bastards. You got all of Daenerys' Dothraki soldiers. You got all of Daenerys' Unsullied. Yes, she took some casualties last season, but if the army of the dead has 100,000, I'd say Daenerys and Jon Snow with all those forces together, all of the North, anyone who did end up joining her fight that's in Westeros, you know, people that Jaime bring into the fray, all of that, I'd say she's got at least 70 to 80,000. I'm not exactly sure if Daenerys' numbers will be what helps her win the Long Night. I think it's going to be relying more on strategy, because we do know that regardless her numbers, the Night King will have more, and his soldiers kind of come back from the dead. There's a chance that Daenerys can have the Fiery Hand and a couple of Red Priestesses reviving key players in her army, but I don't know if she's going to be able to revive them on the same scale as the Night King. One of the greatest weapons the Night King has is Viserion, so we also kind of have to come up with a weapon to defeat that, and I think that can go back to the Wildfire Ballista. Like, just imagine how epic that would be to see Viserion shot with wildfire and then maybe right before he dies, we see a glimmer in his eyes that, yes, Viserion has come back in those final moments and he's been laid down to rest. Now, I know that's just wishful thinking, but I'm saying Daenerys is definitely going to need a weapon to do so. I think the Wildfire Ballista is perfect for that. I know a lot of people are like, well, obviously Drogon and Rhaegal have to take out their brother. They have to lay him to rest. You know, in those moments, they will be their brother's keeper. So, yeah, that's a possibility, and I'm sure that's how it will go down on screen. But honestly, having any Rhaegal or Drogon anywhere near Viserion opens that opportunity for them to die. We do know that Viserion is running at over 9,000 with his enhanced Night King abilities like breathing blue flame and all of this. So we do know that he's going to be a bit stronger than Rhaegal, maybe even stronger than Drogon. Now, I know he's not as big as Drogon, but he could be stronger. His fire could burn hotter, and it's easy. It may be harder to take him out. We do know that you can chop the head off of a white, and they're still around walking. So how much damage can an undead dragon take, you know, a white dragon take before it actually gets taken out? You guys let me know down in the comment section, how hard will it be to kill Viserion? Now on to some quick filming news. Now this next part does contain a little bit of spoilers, so if you don't want to know anything about the filming of Game of Thrones Season 8, go ahead and back out of the video now. Remember to follow that gleam.io link down below and go and enter that contest. The time to enter the contest is running out. But for those who do want to know, apparently the Greyjoys are up to some action. Now, in this filming sequence, this has been brought to my attention, like always, courtesy of Watchers on the Wall and winteriscoming.net. There will be a link down below to the article where you guys can go read that for yourself. But basically, Theon and Yara were actually seen filming outside of the Brambridge Studios in Northern Ireland. Now, it's not exactly known what's going on during that scene, but we do know from that they're going to be reunited. Obviously, the last time we saw Theon in Season 7, he was on his way to go and rescue Yara. I don't know if he'll be successful. I could see something happening where Theon gets sort of, I just called him Theo. Yep, Theo Huxtable is in Game of Thrones Season 8. Massive spoilers. Sorry. Theon is going to have that redemption arc where he, you know, goes and rescues his sister and then maybe dies in the process, and maybe she's, you know, able to live on and escape thanks to Theon. That would be like the ultimate redemption for him. Or we could see something even greater where he tries to rescue Yara. They're successful in almost escaping, but then Euron shows up and kills Yara in the last second. Now, according to the leak, there was no sight of Euron anywhere. So Euron is either dead at this point, or he just hasn't realized that Theon is trying to rescue Yara. But you guys let me know what you think was happening down below in this scene. We're not giving too much information on it, so at this point, we're kind of just speculating. I want to thank Mario and Terry. They are the executive producers of this video, and without them, this kind of content would not be possible. Also, if you would like to enter the contest to win one of these 5 prizes, all you have to do to enter that contest is like this video, leave a comment down below, make sure you're subscribed, and then go ahead and turn your notifications on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop Game of Thrones content throughout the long night. Also, you can follow the gleam.io link down below and enter in all those different ways, and they equal different points. The like goal for this video will be 150. You guys destroyed the last like goal, so please slap a like on this, and let's see if we can't smash through this next one as well. Also, I want to give a super special thank you to every single one of my Patreons: Lise, Jeremiah, Fred, Nancy, Ann, Amberlyn, Beth, Rocketman, King Wolf Dom, Dave Gray, Queen of Maine, Helena Von Leinstein, Belladonna Catertot, Juliet 402, Elder Flores, Enid, Justin Stone Diaz, Darton, Marilyn Miller, Queen Moni, Mel of Winterfell, Sammy Omer, Joe Swag, Lynn Shaw, John Barwick, and Angel. Without all of y'all, these videos would not be possible, and if anyone watching would like to show your support to Sir Hunt's Reviews, you can check my Patreon link down below in the description, or check this link right up here in the right-hand corner. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunt's Reviews. Happy holidays!